This is Dan Turchin from AI and the Future of Work. Welcome to this month's highlight episode celebrating International Youth Day. As you know, we're using 11 labs to digitize my voice for these special episodes. The Real Me approved the content and, of course, approved the digital twin. We'll always share when and how AI was involved in producing the show. Let me know what you think in the comments. Observed every August, International Youth Day is a chance to celebrate the energy, creativity, and resilience of kids and to recognize the responsibility we all share to empower the next generation. We all owe a debt of gratitude to someone who helped us get where we are. Think about how you can pay it forward. You'll hear insights from 4 remarkable past guests: Bruce Feiler, Linda Rottenberg, Mark McCrindle, and William Osman. Each brings a unique perspective on navigating change, building resilience, and embracing opportunities in an uncertain future. We begin with Bruce Feiler, best-selling author and expert on finding meaning in work and life. Bruce shares why your career is a story you get to write and rewrite over time. His message is timeless and inspirational.
Hypothetically, let's say, they're saying, Jeff, but you're super successful. And so you've earned the right, to talk about finding meaning in work. But, we're just getting started. And we're going to be expected to earn a living and pick a thing to do. And then maybe, with our free time, we'll be able to pursue a hobby or do things that are more associated with meaning. What's your counter argument? How do you convince them that meaning and labor, or meaning and contributing to society can coexist?
Well, the first thing I tell them, actually, because I'm in this moment, is don't listen to me. Yes, I happen to have some credibility and voice and maybe even authority in this space. But if there's one thing I learned, is that one of the hardest things for people to do is to ignore the lessons of their parents. So I say, don't do it because you think I want you to do it, and don't do it because I said it. You get to write your own story. And I think that's message number one. And then the second message is that story can change over time. So I just dropped my children off at college, as we've been discussing. And a new thing from when I went to college is that there are these crazy, rabid, stay away at all costs Facebook groups of parents of the class of, in my case, 2027. And 40 times a day, these over-involved, helicopter, more than helicopter, my kid can't, do their laundry. Can you tell them how to do laundry? Or my kid can't find their way. And the other parents are politely saying, that's their job. You're not supposed to be doing their laundry anymore. That's the point. Someone posted one yesterday, Dan, that really got to me. And it was that my child wants to major in politics, economics, and ethics. And I think that's the least employable major I can possibly imagine. Please tell me what I can do to dissuade them. And of course, I've been a silent lurker, I think is the official term. And it was literally all I could do to not put a link to my book in the podcast, in the comment section, to say, first of all, it's none of your business whether, you think it's employable or not. If your child is interested, that's all that matters. And you cannot anticipate. If there's one thing we know about AI, is that we don't know where it's going. Okay. We've gotten study after study. We've both seen them. You're going to lose 5% of the workplace. 25% of the workplace is going to lose their job. It's going to be, it's going to be coders. That's the people that are most threatened. No, it's going to be creative people. The answer is we don't know. Okay. And as a result, we need to prepare ourselves for the possibility that a third of the jobs in the future are jobs that we cannot even imagine. Every technology in the history of technology has created as many jobs as it's destroyed. That's just an existential fact. And that is likely to be what's going to happen here. So the question is, and the thing for young people, for anybody listening, when you don't know where it's going to go, when we know the volatility is going to increase, right? I think the signature piece of data in the search is that we go through 20 work quakes in the course of our lives. And by the way, Xers go through them more than boomers, millennials more than Xers, Zers more than millennials. A millennial woman will go through 2/3 more work quakes in their lives than their boomer mother did. Okay. But the signature piece of data is that only 45% of work quakes begin in the workplace. Conflict with the boss, you get laid off, your business shuts down, you want to start something new. That means 55%, the majority of work quakes begin outside the workplace, in your home, in your family. You get sick. You have a child, who needs your attention more. Okay. You decide to change your mind. You want to move. So in the balance between work and life, the biggest threat to work now is actually not AI. It's that we care about our personal lives and our happiness and meaning, and we're prepared not to sacrifice work anymore. Okay. So in that world, you need to look at work as a story with ups and downs and changes and changes in, most of all, what gives you meaning. Okay. So let's just so my book is built around, as you know, what I call a meaning audit, which is a set of 21 questions to ask yourself when you're in one of these moments of flex. Some of them are about the past. Like, the problem I've always wanted to resolve in my life is blank, right? Or, my earliest role models were blank, because your earliest role models are effectively the first choice you make about work. You can't pick your parents, but you can pick your role models, and it's not who they were, it's what you valued about them. To the present, I'm in a moment in my life. I mean, if you can ask one question, this is such an AI friendly question, right? If I'm in a moment in my life when blank, I'm in a moment in my life. It's a when question in the who, what, when, where, why, how. I'm in a moment in my life when blank. Okay. I'm in a moment in my life when I need to make money because I'm paying off my student debt, right? Or in my case, I have 2 children going to college. Or I'm in a moment when I want to go be involved in the latest technology, right? I want to be involved in AI, right? I want to be involved in driverless cars. I want to be involved in carbon scrubbing or whatever it is. Or I'm in a moment when, I've been doing the same thing for 20 years and I want to give back. Okay. So I'm in a moment when I want to run for political office in my life. I tell a story in my book. I got an email this morning, like an hour ago, from the city councilman of Alhambra, California. And they're hosting a special event for somebody who's profiled in my book, and they want me to write a letter to this man. He grew up in Vietnam and escaped in the next to the last plane that was escaping and went to a resettlement camp. And his father was blind and needed help from his mom, and he raised his young children. And then he went on to become a school teacher. And even that wasn't enough. And he ultimately ran and he was the first Vietnamese American elected to the school board in this town in California. So he was never at a moment in his life when he wanted to make a lot of money. He was at a moment when he wanted to help students, and ultimately he wanted to give back in a bigger way. And the point is, not only do you not have to, you almost assuredly will not make the same decision at 21 and 31 and 41 and 51 and 61 and 71. You're going to make this decision 20 times in your life. So what I tell my children is, if this question engages you right now, dive in. Aim for excellence, work hard, have balance, but just because you're doing it now doesn't mean you're going to have to do it in the future. That's the great opportunity. Don't lock yourself into pre-existing narratives of your country, your community, or even your parents.
Next is Linda Rottenberg, co-founder and CEO of Endeavor, who spent her career championing entrepreneurs around the world. Linda explains why embracing change with an entrepreneurial mindset is essential and how vulnerability can be a leader's greatest strength. She has devoted much of her professional life to finding and investing in unproven talent around the world.
I think that, Dan, and this is why I'm so glad you're doing this podcast, because part of the future work, I think, is everyone feeling a sense of ownership, and whether they go out and start something or whether they just approach their careers, which are not going to be linear and are going to be completely, changing and agile and disruptive. I think that if you approach it with an entrepreneur's mindset, no matter what you want to do, I think that's how you're going to best prepare yourself, because the only thing that's going to be constant is change. And I think the fact that we see this globalization, you deal with AI and the digital disruption, these changes are not going away. And I think that I'm hopeful, again, that as hard as this last year was for so many kids in particular, that they're now going to have know that they will have the resilience to get through really, really hard things. And I think that that's the last thing I'll say, is that these entrepreneurs that you and I meet in these emerging markets, they assume it's going to be hard, right? And what's so compelling about them is they're no matter how great they are, they're still humble and hungry, because they know it's going to be hard. And I think that if everyone listening can just keep that sense of, determination, no matter what it is, and then the sense that we're going to make it easier for the next generation, that's what keeps me inspired.
You and me both. We're running out of time. I really don't want to cut this one short. I've got to ask. This is one of the questions I like to ask most of my guests is your advice for a younger version of Linda. You've accomplished so much. You've got a long road ahead. What would you do if you could roll back time?
I would say that for a long time, especially as, a young, aspiring female leader of sorts, that I aimed to be superhuman, that I thought that's the only way to get ahead. You've got to put your personal life aside. You've got to be strong and, be, tough and sort of superhuman. And when my husband, Bruce Feiler, who's an author, got diagnosed with an aggressive form of bone cancer when my girls, who are turning 16 next week, as we heard, were 3, so back in 2008, my world sort of fell apart. Luckily, Bruce survived, but it was a big ordeal. A year of chemo, his entire femur replaced with titanium rod. It was, our girls were just beginning to understand what this meant. And I really couldn't have that wall I'd created up anymore. And what happened was I was terrified that my then, young employees were going to feel this was awkward and uncomfortable. And I was like losing it and being vulnerable and emotional, and they would all want to leave. And of course, the opposite happened. And I'll never forget that 2 of my young team members pulled me aside and they said, "You know what, Linda, you were superhuman before and totally unrelatable. And now that we see your vulnerable side, we'll follow you anywhere." And so my advice to my younger self is be less super, more human.
Our third guest, Mark McCrindle, is a social researcher who studies generational trends. Mark describes why the future will always be human-centered, even in a world of automation, and why developing people skills, leadership, and empathy will remain critical for young people and those helping them thrive.
Technology in the future will be used for what technology has always been used for throughout history. That is, to create better human flourishing, better connection, better lifestyles for us. It's a human-centric view of the future. It's not a technology-centric one. And so we will use technology for good. Now, obviously, it somehow gets used in negative ways, and there's always a fear when new technology comes in. But I think ultimately we will look back at the use of AI and say, you know what, it has added to our lives, not taken away from it. And it's allowed us to work in more value-adding areas. What can't technology do so well at the moment? It's not designed to connect with people and make complex human decisions and build bridges across the diversity of our population. Even in the future, the most essential work skills will be human ones, and we'll use technology to buffer out some of those repetitive processes and things that we're not as geared up to do. But it will be a human-centered one. And I encourage young people, to develop not just their technology skills, but their people skills, their leadership skills, their communication skills, their ability to make decisions in complexity, understanding all the nuance of those decisions. That's what leadership is about. And that is not going to be outsourced to a bot anytime soon.
a few years ago when I said this, it seemed like science fiction. And now not only is it a reality, but it's a reality in the next 12 to 24 months. It's likely that through automation, every knowledge worker will be able to produce the same output as they do today, let's say in a 40-hour work week, in 30 hours. So potentially, they get back, a day or a day plus a week. What does that do to the human experience? What does it mean to be human when our work life potentially occupies a quarter or more less than what it previously did? And what's your coaching to the humans out there thinking about, how to reinvent themselves when they're essentially going to be working alongside a bot who's perhaps doing some of what they thought was core to their job better than they could ever do it?
Yeah, look, it's a great point, and a fast emerging reality as well, as you've sketched that out, Dan. And I think that firstly, what we need to do is decouple when we hear the word work from employment, when we hear the word work from payment, because we're made for work. We are at our best when we work. But let's face it, when we retire, we will still want to work and make contributions, but we won't be doing it for money anymore. Think about those parents that have taken time out of paid work to raise the children, to educate them, to make some commitments in their communities. Think about all those volunteers who are working, and hopefully we all do a little bit of that here and there, but we're not earning money for that. So work is far richer than just exchanging time for money. Work is far more than just paid employment. And what we will do in the future when we have more time, when we can achieve the paid work outcomes using technology in a shorter period, is that we will reallocate that time to do other meaningful work. And maybe it will be through volunteering in our communities. Maybe it will be spending more time with our families. Maybe it will be working around our house or working with community groups and neighbors. Maybe we'll have more time to allocate to see beyond our own walls and doors our society thriving. I think it's an exciting opportunity.
Finally, we revisit the great conversation with William Osman, a pioneer in the creator community who has more than 3 million YouTube followers who have downloaded his insane, creative, funny videos more than 500 million times. William offers simple but powerful advice: keep trying, keep failing, and keep learning. His story is a reminder that mastery, whether in content creation or any career, comes from persistence and adaptation.
There's so many aspiring creators that are hanging on your every word, watch all your videos, that are listening right now, and would love to just get your advice. Based on everything we've talked about so far, what do you coach the next generation to learn, or to skills to cultivate if they want, to be a creative force like you?
I think that my high level advice is just, you have to fail. You have to keep failing, right? You got to do something and you got to try it. People say, what do I do? What's the secret to making a good video? And the secret is you make a bunch of shitty videos. And then you figure out why the videos you were making earlier are shitty, and then what you can do differently to make the current ones good. That's step number one, is you just got to be bad before you can get good. Very few people are good on the first try, if any. There's maybe a handful. The second piece is to learn how to watch things while analyzing them. You watched something on YouTube and you didn't like it, and so you exited the video, you skip forward. You have to learn to capture those moments. Every time you get that little ping in your head about, I'm going to skip forward, that turns into a learning moment. Why? Think about why. Try to understand why you skipped forward in a video. When you watch something and you like it, try to think about, why did you like it? What parts of it kept you retained? If that makes sense, you're basically, you are learning from other people, and the best way to learn is how you consume. Try to analyze how you consume things and pick up on, what works and what doesn't work in other styles of content, because it's very difficult to do that. It's very difficult to synthesize that on your own. It's easy to consume a title and thumbnail to click on. It's very difficult to generate a title and thumbnail to click on. And other than that, if you are working hard and you're trying to make videos and people aren't watching them, after a while, pivot, do something different. You don't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. If it's not working, you'll know pretty quickly if it's working. And if it's not working, do something different. Switch it up. Do more analysis. Watch more YouTube. Figure out what other people are doing. What are you missing? Why isn't it working? And that's it, basically. It's you just got to try stuff. I mean, that's what I
It sound
did.
way easier than it is.
That's the thing. You just bang your head against the ground until something happens. Like, I've been making videos for a long time, and not a whole lot of people watch those early ones. And then I did something different, and I don't know how to tell you, like how to figure out that thing. I just started doing science videos, and people liked it, and I was like, oh, they worked. And if you are doing it and it's not working, and you just switch it up, and then if that's not working, you switch it up. If that's not working, you switch it up.
International Youth Day is about more than celebrating kids. It's about cultivating a beginner's mindset and inspiring others. If you're young, you're already ahead. By listening to great leaders on this podcast, find your passion and be prepared to thrive in an era where machines will make us better humans. If you're a leader, parent, or mentor, remember your role in opening doors and creating opportunities. Together, we're building a world where everyone, regardless of age, gender, or geography, is empowered to thrive. If any of these ideas resonated with you, listen to the full episodes. Links are in today's show notes. And if you know someone who could use a little inspiration, share this one with them. Thanks for listening to this special edition of AI and the Future of Work. Until next time, keep learning and keep inspiring.